On National Signing Day, I had to make the toughest decision of my life, but in the end, I decided to stay home and play for Kirk Ferentz and the University of Iowa. It was going to be tough getting on the field as a third stringer, but I thought that with Iowa's QB struggles, I had a chance to get some playing time. I knew that my impossible sliders would be even harder in college, and I got killed on my first 2 snaps of practice. But even though I could barely see over the line at 5'5", I started to get into a rhythm, and my first practice was going way better than I expected. I was hoping to win the backup quarterback position since Brian Ferentz's offense definitely needed some help, but I was taking some big hits and getting rattled, and it was definitely hard when every sack I took made the coaches lose all their trust in me. My first practice was all over the place, but I was excited to be in Kinnick Stadium as a player for the first time, even if it was just from the sidelines. Spencer Petras was actually having a pretty good day, but our offense was struggling due to Brian Ferentz's bad play calling, and we were only up 5 with 3 minutes left in the game. Luckily, our running game came through to kill the clock, and I was happy to watch my teammates get our first dub of the season. My second college practice started out rough as my pass got picked off on the deflection, and I didn't think it was fair that the coaches lost trust in me for such a crazy pick. I continued to struggle with my accuracy and take sacks, and things were just not going as well as I'd hoped. That week, our game against FCS Midwest was actually close, but for some reason, instead of going for the onside kick, they just kicked the ball deep after scoring, so we ran the timeout for our second win. During my next practice, I was really shaky, and to be honest, I had the yips. My only positive plays were on scrambles, and even though I was making the right reads, I just could not throw the ball straight. I felt like a different player from the kid who had led City High to the state championship last year, and it was looking like I'd never be the starting quarterback at this rate. Going into our rivalry matchup against Iowa State, I had no hope of seeing the field, even though both offenses were putrid. Iowa State got on top at the end of the half with a Hunter Decker's touchdown pass, and our punter Torrey Taylor was spending a lot of time on the field. But in the third quarter, Spencer Petras had a pocket that I was very jealous of after getting creamed in practice all week, and after he just stood there like a statue for about a half hour, he threw a strike, and we were able to punch it into the end zone and retake the lead. Iowa State was driving, but Deckers threw a terrible ball for an interception. Spencer had another great pocket to ice the game with this pass, and we were El Assico champions after Hunter Deckers stunk up Jack Trice Stadium. I was determined to have a better practice this week, and I developed a new strategy. I started looking to scramble first and only threw to receivers who were wide open to avoid possible picks and get my confidence up. This was working really well as I was slowly able to rebuild my coach trust, and I had my best practice yet. Spencer Petras led us to an easy win against Western Michigan, and we had cracked the top 25 after starting out 4-0. Our next game against Minnesota would be our toughest test yet, but first, I had to have another good practice, and even though I was having success scrambling, I was still having trouble with my passing. I continued to take safe plays, and I was finally starting to earn the trust of Kirk Ferentz, but then I coughed up the ball and all of my progress was gone once again. I was so frustrated that I just started chucking up deep balls, but nothing was working at all. Watching our game against Minnesota from the sidelines, I was feeling down after my bad practice, and it wasn't helping my mood that we got down early and our defense was having trouble keeping Mo Ibrahim bottled up. After going down 21-3, we tried to make a comeback, but it was too little too late, and we took our first loss of the year. I was determined to practice better this week, and I got cooking with a nasty juke. I'd really improved my vision as well as working on my speed and acceleration, and I was running circles around the Iowa defense, but I fumbled the ball, which killed my coach trust again. I was so frustrated that I just decided to let it rip again, and I actually hit a deep pass, but I was still missing wide open receivers for touchdowns, and I couldn't understand why. It was at least a better practice than last time, but we were taking on a top 10 Michigan State team, and this one was looking like it was going to be tough. Our offense was dead in the water, and I was starting to get worried about playing for Brian Ferentz's offense when the play calling was this bad, and we were honestly just outmatched against Michigan State. Despite our losses, I was feeling better going into the next week of practice, and something just felt different for me. I was slowly starting to figure out how to succeed in our outdated offense, and I was thrilled when I finally hit my first long touchdown pass of the season. Just a few reps later, I rolled out and hit another one, and I was finally starting to get out of my own head and into a rhythm. I closed out practice with a long scramble, and after today, I was hoping that Coach Ferentz would at least try me out in a Wildcat package. I carried that positive momentum over into my next practice where I continued to play it safe, and my coach trust was finally starting to stack up. I was playing it smart and throwing the ball away anytime I felt pressure at all, and on this play, I ran away from everybody on this elite Iowa defense, and I had finally earned enough coach trust to challenge for the backup quarterback position. I spent the rest of practice chucking the ball out of bounds to avoid losing any points, and I was so excited for my first position battle, but first, we were playing in the shoe against number 6 Ohio State, and I knew we were probably going to get killed in this game, but we actually started things off pretty well as Spencer Petras connected for 2 early touchdown passes. Luckily for us, CJ Stroud was out for this game, and backup Kyle McCord threw a red zone pick, so we were hanging with the Bucks. OSU finally hit a long touchdown pass, but we answered with a field goal to go up 10. Late in the third quarter, Ohio State was driving, and I thought we were in trouble for sure, but our defense was making big plays to keep them out of the end zone, and Ryan Day made the surprising decision to run for it on 4th down, and we stuffed it. Despite the weird coaching decision, the Buckeyes predictably made it a game with an 85-yard touchdown pass with a couple minutes left in the 4th. We picked up a huge first down, and all we had to do was run the clock out, but for some reason, Brian Ferentz was still calling pass plays, and instead of taking a knee, Spencer Petras chucked a deep ball for a pick. I couldn't believe what I was watching, but luckily Jack Campbell saved us with a pick, and we had pulled off a gigantic upset in Columbus. We finally had a position battle against Alex Padilla, and I copped a 1-week boost to make sure I was at my best. I was determined to overcome the obstacle I'd been facing all year, and with the way position battles worked, I was able to loosen up and try to make big plays without worrying as much about making mistakes. It wasn't helpful when my receivers were dropping passes and I was misfiring on easy throws, but I continued to fight like I had all year, and I started to get into a rhythm with some completions. Since I got off to a rocky start, I had to finish up the practice perfect to win the backup quarterback job, and after throwing some dots, I only had 2 reps left to prove myself, and I scampered down the sidelines to finally move up on the depth chart. I was so happy to be on the field, even if it was just to hold kicks, but late in the game against Northwestern, they scored a touchdown pass to go up 1, and Spencer Petras had to lead a game-winning drive. Unfortunately, we were just going backwards, and we had to punt the ball out of our own end zone, and I watched Northwestern run out the clock to hand us an upset. Our Big Ten title hopes were in the gutter, but I had a ton of newfound confidence after becoming the backup quarterback as a true freshman, and I was making our defense look silly in practice. We had a huge rivalry game against Wisconsin, and things were looking tough in the 4th quarter, but we hit a long touchdown pass, and we were back in the game after a stop on 3rd down. I watched as Spencer Petras began to march us down the field, and he hit Deontay Vines down the sideline for the biggest play of the season. Graham Mertz almost got it all back with this absolute bomb, but his receiver dropped it, and we held on for the win thanks to Spencer Petras' amazing performance. I had another great day of practice, but Spencer was clearly the man for the job at QB. He was the leader of this team, and he had defied expectations and become one of the best passers in college football this year. I was honestly happy to see him succeed, even though I was his backup, because he had been a great mentor to me in my freshman season. Coach wasn't going to let me into another game until bowl week so I could keep my redshirt status, and we got mopped up by Michigan. This Iowa team was definitely up and down, but I was feeling it in practice, and on one of my scrambles, I literally juked out the entire Iowa defense and ran it in for a touchdown. We were playing our final regular season game against Nebraska in the snow, and for some reason they were actually good this year, so we unfortunately took a loss. I was really relaxing into the Iowa offense, and I had started to show Kirk and Brian Ferentz that having a quarterback who didn't have cement blocks for legs could actually be a good thing. I continued to make smart reads, and I had earned enough trust from the coaching staff that they told me I was going to be lined up to start next season. We played in the Quick Lane Bowl against Toledo, and Spencer Petras led us to an easy win to cap off this solid season. Alabama won the national championship as usual, and I was excited to lock down the starting quarterback position to challenge them next season. I was extra excited because my favorite high school teammate, Craig Ostrander, had transferred to Iowa to fill out our receiving corps, but the coaching staff was making me battle it out with Alex Padilla, and I'm not gonna lie, my preseason got off to a rough start. I shook back by hitting my favorite target from high school, but unfortunately, Alex Padilla was outperforming me in practice, and Kirk Ferentz gave him the start in our first game. I had expected to take the reins this year, so after he played very well, I was worried I might spend another year on the bench. What's more, I hurt my throwing arm, and I was having too tough a time throwing straight to make a splash in practice. I had to watch from the sidelines again as we took down Iowa State, and this season was really not going how I'd expected. But then we got embarrassed by Texas State, and Alex Padilla had a bad game. I got another chance to win a start, and I knew I couldn't underperform anymore. I figured that if the coaches could see that I brought a new dimension to the offense with my athleticism, they might give me a shot. I was able to get loose for a long touchdown run, and I had a great day passing the ball, so I finally earned a start against Pitt. I was so nervous for my first drive as a college QB that my arms were shaking and I could not throw the ball straight at all on my first drive. Our run game wasn't working at all, and I knew I had to flash something to stay in the game, so I found Ostrander for a long third down conversion and the first completion of my college career. Unfortunately, I got absolutely folded on the next play, and on third down, I missed my target by a mile. Pittsburgh was swarming me with pressure, and after a throwaway, Brian Ferentz made a conservative run call, and just like that, it was third down again. I knew I was going to have Arlen Bruce open, but I airmailed him badly. My first quarter had gone horribly, but on third and long, I finally hit a big pass play to Arlen Bruce, and I was just starting to loosen up a bit when I got flattened by the pass rush. Brian Ferentz showed no trust in my arm as we took a measly 2-yard gain on a tunnel screen. Luckily, our defense was absolutely shutting Pitt down, and Coach Ferentz was shockingly aggressive with 30 seconds left in the half. I knew I needed to make a play, so I threw a strike to my favorite target to get us rolling. Then on the next play, I didn't like what I was seeing deep, so I rolled to my right and showed off my speed to pick up the first down. I sliced up a Pitt cover 6 with a dart to Keegan Johnson, and with time running down, I got us inside the 10. But with 6 seconds left, I thought I had a touchdown, but Johnson got tackled short, and the time ran out on the clock, so we ended the half with a pathetic 0-0 score. I was determined to have a better second half, and I was slowly getting into rhythm as I threw an absolute strike to Luke Lachey with pressure in my face. I was hoping he would score, but he couldn't quite outrun the defense. I continued to get the ball to my tight ends, but on first down, I put way more air into my throw than I meant to, and I had thrown the first interception of my career. I was extremely frustrated that things were going so poorly, and I knew it was going to be embarrassing if we got shut out in my first start. I was driving us down the field, but on third down, I got whacked, so I had to convert a big fourth down. I rolled out to the left, but everything was clamped up, and I couldn't quite make it happen. I was continually getting pounded by Pitt's D-line, and my coach trust was in the gutter. Pittsburgh finally broke the stalemate with a defensive touchdown, and I was determined to clutch up for my team. I scrambled to my right and fought for the first down, but I lost the ball, and Pitt cashed it in to put them up 14. I knew we were probably screwed, and this might be my last start of the season, but I was still fighting and trying to lead us down the field. I was able to get us back inside the red zone with another scramble, but then I threw another terrible pass, and that was that. I'd had an awful debut, and everyone on Twitter was saying I was trash after I couldn't even score a single touchdown. After the Pitt game, I was back to being number 2 on the depth chart, and the coaches had lost all their trust in me. I had to work my way all the way back up from ground zero, and it was hard when I was struggling so much with accuracy. I guess that's what you get with the 0 to 100 sliders. I'd found that I needed to warm up with some easy completions before I could count on my passes being accurate. I started to get cooking in practice, and after rolling out to my left, I made a ridiculous throw across my body for a touchdown. Honestly, after such a tough performance in my first game, this might have been my best practice yet. Even though my first start went badly, I had improved so much from where I was as a freshman. I was starting to develop chemistry with my secondary receivers, but I didn't get the nod in the Minnesota game, and our offense was honestly looking better without me. We had a chance to shut Minnesota down, but they were able to score late in the fourth, and we were down 17-14 with a minute left. But Alex Padilla was cool as a fan as he led us down the field, and we punched it in for the go-ahead score. Unfortunately, Minnesota put a last-second drive of their own together, and they went for the kill on the final play to take home the Floyd of Rosedale. The season was going bad for both me and my team, and I couldn't build on my good practice from last week. I was getting bum-rushed and my passes were shaky. I watched as we got hammered by Michigan State, and I was already thinking ahead to next season, but then Alex Padilla injured his elbow in practice. Suddenly, I was getting another start against Northwestern, and this was really my last chance to prove myself this season. I knew that I had to get into a rhythm early to succeed, and completing my first pass for a first down was huge for my confidence. I was actually getting off to a great start as I hit Lachey over the middle for a big gain, but of course, he fumbled it and Northwestern recovered. It was annoying how bad my luck was with this offense, but I knew I had to play level-headed and make smart reads like this dump-off. Our running game was working a lot better today, but our line was still having trouble protecting me, so we had to convert on a 3rd and 19. I knew I had to get the ball out quick, but I delivered a perfect strike with defenders in my face. I was feeling as good as I'd ever felt, and I rolled out to hit a wide open Craig Ostrander, and he almost took it in for my first touchdown pass. But sadly, we got stuffed on the goal line, and I was going to go crazy if we came away from another drive with nothing. Luckily, Drew Johnson finally got us on the board. Our defense got a stop, and I tried to lead Arlen Bruce upfield, but I threw my first bad pass of the day. Suddenly, I was feeling shaky again. On 3rd and 11, I had a wide open receiver, but I got lit up. Our defense got us a turnover, but my arm was giving me trouble again. I was worried the Iowa coaches were going to start thinking I was a head case as I missed another pass, and on third down, there was nothing open. I rolled out and my dude Lachey actually came open, but I missed him by a mile. With 40 seconds left in the half, the coaches were putting more trust in me than they probably should have, but I finally threw the ball straight for a completion over the middle. On 3rd and 5, I decided to get out of the pocket, and I saw Craig come wide open, so I hit him perfectly in stride for a huge gain. Brian Ferentz kept calling stupid, slow-developing play-action passes, which was nothing new, and I scrambled to get us inside the 5, but coach decided to take the field goal, so I ended another half without a touchdown. We opened up the second half with a nice completion, and I was feeling good, but Brian Ferentz called another slow-developing play-action that I knew I wouldn't have time for, so I just threw it away. On 3rd down, I saw the safety creeping down to blitz, so I knew I'd have Ostrander for an easy pickup. Our offensive play calling was actually pissing me off at this point, and on 3rd down, Caleb Johnson dropped an easy first down catch. Then on 4th down, the defensive look confused me, and after I tried to scramble, I got stopped short. Northwestern had put us down 8, and I knew we had to put up some points on this drive. I decided I needed to use my legs more and improvise. Brian Ferentz called a read option, and I decided to ignore the read and just keep it. After I made the DN look silly, I showed off some speed and took it into Northwestern territory for a giant gain. Unfortunately, a wide open Luke Lachey decided to just not put his hands up to catch the ball, so we had to kick yet another field goal. On our next drive, we ran a nice play to my favorite teammate, Craig Ostrander, and he made it 3rd and manageable. Coach called a stupid screenplay, and once again, I decided to just ignore the call, but after my scramble got stopped short, I got chewed out on the sidelines. Northwestern went up 12, and our hope was running out. I knew I was going to have to move us down the field fast, so I got out of the pocket to hit a wide open Keegan Johnson, who almost took it all the way to the house. I hurried us to the line, and at this point, I was locked in as I hit Lachey over the middle, and after we pitched it out to Caleb Johnson, he got to the edge and put us within 6. Our defense had to get a stop, and I thought Northwestern would pick up the 3rd and 1 for sure, but for some reason Pat Fitzgerald decided to pass the ball and it was incomplete. We had one last chance, and I felt like my entire football career had been leading up to this moment. Getting out of the pocket was my comfort zone at this point, and my mobility allowed Ostrander to get wide open for a big completion. We were into Northwestern territory, and we might have had someone deep, but I got scared, so I just took the safe play and scrambled to the sideline. At this point, I wasn't too worried about the clock, and it was probably better if we didn't leave any time for their offense, so I continued to take safe passes. With the clock moving under a minute, I got us inside the 10 with a long scramble, and my teammates were hyping me up to win us the game. All I knew is I did not want to throw a pick, and we got inside the 5, but our running game got stuffed, so it was all on me to score. On 3rd down, I thought I had Gavin Williams for a touchdown, but he got stopped short, so we had one last chance to win the game. Coach was calling a great goal line play, and I was looking for Ostrander on the short in route. I dropped back and hit him in the end zone for the game-winning touchdown, and I was so excited that I lifted him up in the air with my tiny 5'5" body. Honestly, I could barely see over the line on this play, but I knew I could count on my boy Ostrander. We kicked the field goal to escape Northwestern with a huge win, and I was the hero for the first time in my college career. I was getting my first start in Kinnick Stadium against Purdue. I knew we had to win this game to have a chance at a bowl game since our schedule only got tougher from here, and we got off to a great start as I was throwing strikes to my receivers over the middle. I was able to get us inside the red zone with my passing, and after a rushing touchdown, we took an early lead. After starting out my first 2 games with a lot of nerves, I was feeling great today. The Kinnick crowd was loving me after I rolled out and threw a dot across my body for a big gain to Luke Lachey. They hadn't seen a quarterback who could run like I could for a long time. We were up 10 midway through the second quarter, and I was making this Purdue defense look like Swiss cheese. I continued to use my legs to extend plays and throw dots despite repeatedly getting lit up by the pass rush. I was letting it rip, and I delivered a strike to Craig Ostrander to put us up 17. Kinnick Stadium was absolutely jumping as they were finally getting to see some good offense, and with 20 seconds left in the half, I made one of the best throws of my life and led Ostrander beautifully down the field. Me and my high school teammate were lighting up the Purdue defense, and after going up 25, I decided to show off my legs a little more and hit a nasty spin move. Kirk Ferentz took me out as we crushed the clock, but I'd had a great performance at home, and I was feeling better throwing the ball than ever. Our next matchup was a huge rivalry game against Wisconsin, and I got off to a nice start with an easy dump-off pass to Caleb Johnson. Unfortunately, Brian Ferentz was calling draws on 3rd and 9, and I was having a tough time getting into rhythm. I was trying to make plays with my legs to get our offense going, and on 3rd and 4, I showed my toughness by putting my shoulder down and getting the first down despite my 2.55 frame. Unfortunately, this led to me getting sidelined with an injury until the third quarter, and we were down by 21. I didn't have much time to lead us to a comeback with our slow-moving offense, so I knew it was time to make some big plays. On 3rd and 7, I got out of the pocket and hit an absolute bomb to Craig Ostrander, and Caleb Johnson was able to punch it in for the touchdown. We missed the extra point, but I was locked in and dotting up this tough Wisconsin defense. On this play, there was absolutely nothing open. I got away from the pressure and showed a crazy burst of acceleration to get us all the way inside the 20. I misfired on 3rd down, but we decided to go for it on 4th, and I hit Ostrander again for a clutch conversion. We punched it in on the goal line, and we were able to get the 2-point conversion and make it a 1-score game. Our defense got a huge stop, but Brian Ferentz was calling tentative run plays, and I was so mad when he took the ball out of my hands when I'd single-handedly let us back into this game. On 3rd and 15, I was not a fan of our play call, but I knew I had to make do, so I threw a laser to Arlen Bruce for a conversion. Then I made my first big mistake of the day. On this speed option, I couldn't get my pitch out, and it turned into a fumble that Wisconsin scooped up. Just like that, we were down 14 with only a minute left. I tried to lead us down the field, but I got injured again, and I had to watch from the sideline as we made the worst play call of all time with no timeouts left. We took a tough L to our rival, and I'd played well, but I felt like my turnover and the bad play calling cost us the game. Our next game was at Illinois, and the snow was falling as I threw a rope over the middle. But then I missed a wide open target on 3rd down, and Brian Ferentz made the terrible 4th down play call of a screen that got completely snuffed out. We were off to a slow start, but midway through the second, I rolled out and found Arlen Bruce deep down the field. I was getting back into a rhythm and hitting passes with perfect precision, and we were able to punch it in for a passing touchdown. My teammates were going crazy in the snow, but I was staying locked in. With time running down in the half, coach was letting me try to make something happen, and I did just that as I hit Lachey over the middle. Even though Deontay Vines dropped an easy touchdown catch, I was able to get us into the end zone with a dump-off pass to LaShawn Williams. Our offense was figuring things out, and I was finding my tight ends like an Iowa quarterback should. I was developing great timing with receivers like Arlen Bruce as I drove us back down the field despite getting crushed by D linemen, but we got stuffed on the goal line and had to take the field goal. Up 5 with time running down on the clock, we converted a huge 3rd down. I hit Lachey on the sideline, and we were able to run down the clock and get out of Illinois after my best performance yet. Next up, we had a real challenge at number 4 Michigan, and I was determined to pull off an upset in the Big House. Brian Ferentz called a QB draw to start, and I made a wicked cut to run for the 1st down. The 100,000 fans screaming at me in the pass rush were making me nervous, but on 3rd down, I hit my first completion to get it to 4th and short. On 4th down, I was shaky, so I decided to use my legs. I ran to my right and got the easy 1st down. Brian Ferentz was actually having me run a lot more than usual today, and I was showing my athleticism with my acceleration and cutting ability. On 3rd down, I was running for my life, and I was so gassed I felt like passing out, but I outran the defense to pick up the 1st down. We called one too many QB run plays, and I got injured after a rough tackle. Luckily, my offense finished the drive, and I came back in to throw a dot to Arlen Bruce. I was getting into a rhythm despite the big moment and finding my favorite targets as I hit Lachey to get us into the red zone. On 2nd and 6, I got away from the pressure and chucked up a prayer to Bruce, and he made an insane one-handed catch. We were hyped up as the Big House was completely silenced. I was becoming a dual threat quarterback like I'd never been in high school, and I was doing a great job of navigating away from pressure and letting my receivers get open. Unfortunately, there was nobody open on 2nd down, and my prayer got snatched out of the sky for a pick. My teammates had my back, and after Michigan finally got on the board, I found Bruce again on the corner strike, and he was making great plays after the catch. I knew I had to make up for my pick, and with time ticking down under a minute and a half, I rolled out and found my boy Ostrander in the end zone for another passing touchdown. We had a 3rd down to open the 2nd half, and after I hit Bruce on the in, he beat his man and took it all the way to the crib for a huge 70-yard touchdown. One of Brian Ferentz's stupid draw plays actually worked to get us a long touchdown, and we were able to drain the rest of the game clock to pull off a massive upset behind my 3 passing touchdowns. Our final game of the regular season was against Nebraska, and we had to get revenge on them for last year, and I got into a nice rhythm early. The game was finally slowing down for me as I was finding easy pre-snap reads for big gains, and my wide receivers were doing a great job of making plays after the catch for me. On 4th down, I took an option play up the middle for a big conversion, and I didn't like our weird goal line play call, so I got out of the pocket and was able to waltz in for an easy touchdown. Unfortunately, I spent the rest of the first half getting flattened by the pass rush, and we were down 10-7 midway through the 3rd. Arlen Bruce was my #1 target at this point, and I knew he'd win on an in route 90% of the time. Our line was playing terrible, so I was having to get the ball out quick, and I was doing a good job, but it was hard when I didn't have time for routes to fully develop. On 3rd and 13, Nebraska sent the house, and I finally took the top off the defense with a dot to Keegan Johnson that he took to the house to put us up 4. Our defense got a stop, but unfortunately, getting hit so much was starting to get to me. I forced a pass and overthrew it for a bad interception, which Nebraska cashed in for a touchdown. With just over 3 minutes left, it was up to me to lead a game-winning drive. I found Ostrander over the middle, and I was doing my best to stay cool under pressure and find my favorite targets to get us into the red zone. On 2nd and goal, I overcame my fatigue and ran away from everybody for the go-ahead touchdown run. Nebraska had one last chance to score, but they messed up their clock management, and I had led us to yet another clutch Big Ten victory. To my shock, we were somehow in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State, and their team was stacked. This was going to be the toughest game of my career, and I was definitely feeling the nerves as my passes were way off target on my first couple drives. We were down 14-0, and this game was already at risk of getting out of hand, so I made a play with my legs like I had all year and stiff-armed my way into OSU territory. I finally got the passing game going with a clutch 3rd down completion to Keegan Johnson, and with pressure in my face, I threw a strike to get us into the end zone. Unfortunately, Ohio State answered right back with 7, and I was getting bum rushed, so I continued to use my legs to extend plays with time running down in the half. Then Ohio State made a big mistake. Their corner got lost in coverage, so I delivered a beautiful deep ball to Keegan Johnson for a massive touchdown. We were right back in the game going into the second half, and I continued to throw dots with pressure flying at me. I scrambled again and was able to zigzag my way into Ohio State territory for a 1st down. Ostrander was hyping me up, and I continued to clutch up and convert big 3rd downs with bullets to my receivers. On 3rd and goal, I hit Ostrander on the drag for the touchdown, and we just needed one stop, but OSU scored again. I was faced with another 3rd and long, but I was feeling it as I floated a pass over the top for a big Luke Lachey catch. Every time we got to 3rd down, I would come up with a big play, and we were working our way deep into Ohio State territory. With time running low, we got stuffed on 3rd and 1, and I was faced with the biggest 4th down of my life. With a trip to the Rose Bowl on the line, I found Arlen Bruce for a 1st down, and we punched it in to tie the game. Just like that, we were in overtime, and Ohio State scored immediately. I found Ostrander like I had been all season, but Brian Ferentz kept making bad run calls that got blown up before they had a chance. On 3rd and 13, nothing looked open, so I extended the play and kept my eyes downfield for the biggest touchdown throw of my life. It looked like I was going to lead us in for another score, but on 3rd down, I made my first mistake and it cost us the Big Ten title. I was devastated that I threw a pick when we were so close to a huge win, but I hoped we'd be back for revenge next season. In the Duke's Mayo Bowl against FSU, they jumped out to a huge lead before I even threw a pass. My normally sure-handed receivers were dropping balls and we were just not looking right as we went into half down 24. We were outmatched, but I was still giving it my all and trying to drive us down the field. FSU's coverage and pass rush were honestly very tough to move the ball against. We finally had something going late in the 3rd as I was finding open receivers up the seam, and I was able to get us into the end zone after a wide open scramble. Time was running out, but I continued to throw dots to try to get us back in the game, and I got us within 10 with another throw up the seam to Lachey. Unfortunately, FSU scored another touchdown, and we just could not make it happen. It was a bad day all around, and we finished with a bizarre 7-7 record, but I felt good about how I turned a bad season into a near Big Ten championship. I put up pretty decent stats for my first year, and our offense was somehow going to be 99 overall going into next season. I was hoping to lead us to a Big Ten championship, and despite the 0-100 sliders, I was throwing dots, and we got off to an incredible start with a touchdown pass to my guy, Craig Ostrander. I had developed perfect timing with my receivers in the offseason, and on 1st and goal, the block was hot, but I used my athleticism to escape for a rushing score. I was hyped up, and for some reason, I was silencing my own home fans. I was 8 for 8 passing when my blockhead tight end ruined my perfect game, but on 2nd and 10, I made a Johnny Manziel-esque play with this rollout and threw a beautiful dot to Keegan for a huge gain. Unfortunately, I followed up my magnificent play by throwing the ball directly to a defender who I somehow did not see. My wide receivers seemed to be dropping everything all of a sudden. North Texas tied it up at 14 and I had to start cooking, so I hit Keegan Johnson for a bomb over the top. Late in the 4th quarter, this game was way closer than it should have been, and I was doing my best to make do with the play calls I was working with, but my receivers continued to sell on me. Also, Brian Ferentz was calling play actions that literally did not allow me to move or throw before getting sacked, and with just a minute left, we were down 3. I had been in this situation before, and with the rain coming down, I threw a laser to Cole Charles that he of course brickhanded. I was annoyed at all the drops, but I found Arlen Bruce on an out to get us moving, and then Charles partway redeemed himself with a catch for a 1st down. With just 15 seconds left, I knew my legs were my best bet in the red zone, so I got out of the pocket to score yet another late go-ahead touchdown. North Texas had one last chance, and of course they actually caught the Hail Mary, but they were short and we escaped with a close win behind my good performance. performance. In our second game, we were playing against Iowa State in Jack Trice Stadium, the ugliest looking field in this entire game. I got off to a good start as Craig Ostrander made an amazing catch, and midway through the second quarter, we were knotted up at 7. This offense was built around tight ends, and I was doing a good job of finding the big man Luke Lachey time and time again. Brian Ferentz kept taking the ball out of my hands in the red zone, so we were down late in the half, but I was at my best when the coaches just gave me the green light to let it rip. I hit Cole Charles over the middle for an easy touchdown to go into half, but unfortunately we were trailing again late in the fourth quarter after a string of terrible play calls. Luckily, I'd been on point all day and really just needed the coaches to trust me for us to move the ball effectively. But on 3rd and 6, everything was locked up in man coverage and I had to take the dump off short of the sticks. On 4th and 2, I made a clutch throw to Craig Ostrander for a huge conversion, and Coach Ferentz of course was playing conservative in field goal range, so we went up 3. Thankfully, Iowa State's last second drive did not go anywhere, and our fans were insanely hyped up as we pulled off the big rivalry win. I was dancing around on the field, and we sent Iowa State home sad after I played a nearly flawless game through the air. The next week, we were back in Kinnick Stadium playing in our banana yellow alternate uniforms against Pittsburgh, and I got off to a good start. On this play action, I had pressure right in my face, but I floated a beautiful deep ball to Keegan Johnson for a big gain. On 1st and goal, I got lit up instantly, but the next play, I was able to find Lachey on the curl for an easy touchdown, and Kinnick Stadium was jumping already. Pitt struck back with a touchdown, and I threw one of the worst picks of my career on this pass. Our defense helped us out with a big stop, but the pass rush was repeatedly getting to me, and on 3rd and long, I missed this deep ball throw by a country mile. I decided to get something going with the scramble like I always did when I was struggling, but I decided not to slide and I got dinged up on the play. Our team actually did pretty well without me, and up 10, I came back in to close out the game and hit a strike to my boy Arlen Bruce. I was feeling better after getting a break from getting crushed by D linemen, and I was finding easy open targets to march us down the field, capping off our drive with a touchdown pass to Luke Lachey. Pitt somehow made it a game by forcing a turnover, so on 3rd down, I had to convert to end the game, so I took matters into my own hands by lowering my shoulder for the first down. We knelt out the clock, and we were off to a great 3-0 start on the season. We opened up Big Ten play at Minnesota, and Luke Lachey took an unfortunate hit on the first play. Thankfully, he was okay and shook back with a catch to get us into the red zone before I threw a beautiful touch pass to Craig Ostrander to get us on the board. The big hit earlier must have made Lachey angry because he spent the rest of the day completely sunning Minnesota's DBs and showing that he might be the best tight end in college football with plays like these. I continued to feed him the ball as he was becoming my primary target on most plays, and then I hit my other tight end for a nice touchdown pass. Minnesota's defense was trash, and I sliced them up all half with throws to Ostrander and Lachey. Our offense was looking unstoppable, and with time running down in the second quarter, I waltzed in for an easy touchdown run. Kirk Ferentz didn't let me do much in the second half, but we sat on the ball for an easy win, and I had played literally spotless football. Our next game was the weirdest of the season so far. We were back at home playing against UNLV, and I got off to the best start possible as I hit Keegan Johnson over the top for 6 on my first pass play. I had Kinnick Stadium jumping, but then I tried to highball Luke Lachey, and the ball got batted around for a ridiculous interception. Our defense got a stop, but I was out of rhythm after the pick, and I coughed up the ball after getting lit up on a play action pass. Just like that, we were losing to a trash team, and Luke Lachey got lit up for the second game in a row. I shook back with a completion to Keegan Johnson, who seemed to be the hot hand today, and then found Lachey in a tight window on a corner route. But unfortunately, we had to settle for a field goal as I fumbled again. We got the ball back in good field position, and I was trying to play it safe and make up for my mistakes. I knew this game was killing my coach trust as I hit Ostrander over the middle, who also got lit up and fumbled. It seemed like I finally got us going with a completion to Ostrander, but then I got too antsy and threw yet another embarrassing interception. Now we were down again, and the crowd was getting really restless, so I knew we needed to get a touchdown before half. With time taking under 10 seconds, UNLV ran a dumb cover 2, and Keegan Johnson got open for yet another huge touchdown bomb. UNLV was putting up a good fight, and they were up 1 midway through the fourth as we tried to establish the run game. I knew Keegan Johnson was a dominant force today, so when I saw him in man coverage, I just threw the ball up to him and put it on the money for another huge gain. On 1st and goal, I rolled out and did my thing to get us back on top, and this was a big 2-point conversion. The QB draw worked, but the Rebels answered right back to tie it up at 24. I was really rolling the dice with the Vegas boys in town, and I hit Lachey on a ridiculous throw over the top. We punched it in to go up 7, and after our defense came up with a stop, I picked up a clutch first down and sent UNLV packing after a good effort. I made some of my worst throws ever, but also some of my best. It was my least clean game yet, but a win's a win. We were playing against Michigan State, who whooped us last year, and Keegan Johnson built on last week's performance with a nice catch to get us going. Unfortunately, on 3rd down, I got blown up before Lachey's route had time to clear, but we got the ball back with solid field position as we tried to get the read option going. I missed a wide open Keegan Johnson by a mile, but on 3rd down, I had just enough time to deliver a first down throw to Ostrander. It seemed like I was a half second away from getting sacked every every play, but I was staying cool under pressure and dotting up the defense. On the goal line, I found Arlen Bruce for an easy touchdown. Michigan State answered back with 6, but I was locked in, and the seam passes had been working for us all season. On 3rd and 3, I didn't see anything open, but at this point, my speed was high enough to where I was truly an escape artist as I got away from the rush and juked ahead for a nice gain. I was hyped up, and on 3rd and 6, I saw the seam open again and threw an absolute rope to Caleb Johnson for another score. I was proving to be one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in college football, and it was surprising I didn't have to deal with more injuries with all this running. It seemed like every time we got the ball before half, our offense was at its best because coach didn't constantly call run plays that did not work. Luke Lachey was all over the field once again and was really nice as a big target up the seam. I got into the end zone with an easy touchdown run, and my teammate Connor Colby picked up my tiny body in the air to celebrate. I was finding that the key to running this offense was getting the ball out extremely quick because the sliders would punish me with swats and sacks when I didn't. I'm normally a pocket passer, but the 0 to 100 sliders caused me to be more aware of the rush and develop a great ability to extend plays. We were dominating Michigan State offensively as I sprinted for the goal line for another rushing score. Kennick was bouncing as it looked like we were going to run away with this one, but then Michigan State crushed me on the speed option and forced a fumble that got recovered for 6. Just like that, they were back in the game, but I was happy to see that the coaches were letting me throw a lot more than normal. We were making that look like a good decision, although our receivers kept getting creamed by defenders. After we were held to a field goal, the Spartans came up with a big score and we had to play smart to close out this game. On this big 3rd down, Patterson was running through quicksand, but he barely got the first down. We were faced with another 3rd down, and I did not trust my defense to win us this game. I rolled out and made a very risky throw to Arlen Bruce, but it paid off and we'd had possibly our best game throwing the ball yet. We'd started out 6-0 and we were looking like true Big Ten title contenders this year. I had led us to a 6-0 start, but we still weren't ranked. I started off the game badly as our line was getting manhandled, but I finally got things going with a completion to Keegan Johnson on a curl. My biggest strength my whole college career had been as a runner, and my team was going to need me to continue to make runs like these, and we finally got on the board as I floated a perfect pass to Ostrander for a touchdown. After our typical slow start, our offense was heating up with long completions before halftime, and on 1st and goal, I stayed in the pocket to deliver my second touchdown pass to Cole Charles. We started off the second half by getting lit up as there was nowhere to go with the ball, but we got it all back on a 2nd and long as Arlen Bruce ran a great route and fought for the first down. Then I made one of the most athletic plays in my career. I got out of the pocket and showed a burst of cleat speed, and Kinnick Stadium was going crazy as I sprinted down the sideline for the longest run of my career. I made another amazing play late in the 4th as I extended the play just long enough for Luke Lachey to get open and threw a rope to him for another touchdown pass. I was starting to make a case that I might be a Heisman contender as I continued to find Luke Lachey for big gains, and I did throw my first pick of the day on the goal line, but I'd had a great day with 4 total touchdowns. Next up, we were playing Indiana and we were finally ranked. There was a steady rain inside Kinnick Stadium, but I got us going with a scamper down the sideline as I continued to impress with my legs. I got my first completion of the day with a dot to Keegan Johnson for a first down, and Luke Lachey was clearly establishing himself as the best tight end in the country. I was reading the defense with ease today as I continued to find soft spots in the zone, and I was feeling so good that I chucked up a risky throw to Ostrander, and he made a great play to come down with it. These Big Ten defenses were not doing a good job of accounting for my running ability, and I got loose again for my first rushing touchdown of the day. I got pounded by a defensive tackle on the next drive, but on 3rd and 24, I navigated the pocket to find Luke Lachey and get us in range to try for a 4th down, which we converted easily. We were piling on points against the Hoosiers, and coach was going to take me out soon, but I wanted to throw a couple more dots before I came off the field. I found Craig Ostrander again and again, and with 30 seconds left in the half, I outran everybody to put us up by an insurmountable 35 points. We beat the brakes off of Indiana, and I played spotless football with only 2 incompletions. Going into our game against Purdue, Kirk Ferentz told me to stop scrambling so much because he didn't want me to get hurt, but I didn't listen because I'd realized I was faster than most of the defensive backs in the Big Ten, and I showed it with this huge 63-yard touchdown run on the first play. I had a feeling it was going to be a good day as we were up by 14 early, and I found my favorite target, Luke Lachey, on the sideline. I was cutting through Purdue's defense like butter as I hit Arlen Bruce for a touchdown pass. With 22 seconds left in the half, most Iowa teams would just crush the clock, but we were feeling it. I chucked a bomb to Keegan Johnson, and he came down with it to get us inside the red zone. He had been a great deep threat all season, and I was so glad he didn't transfer as I found him for another touchdown pass. At this point, I was playing playground football as I made everybody on the Purdue defense look stupid, and they got us to 3rd and 26, but I still converted with another strike to Johnson. I scampered in for an easy touchdown run, and Craig Ostrander was glad he'd come to Iowa to play with me because we developed the same connection in this offense that we had in high school. Purdue just could not figure out how to deal with both my legs and my arm as I continued to pick them apart. I found Keegan Johnson Johnson for another touchdown to continue his dominant performance and added another late rushing score to run up the score for the Poles and give us a ridiculous 56-3 win. We were playing our toughest test yet in number 10 Ohio State, and we were looking to get revenge on them after they beat us in the Big Ten Championship last year. I knew this defense was tougher and I'd have to open things up with both the scramble and the short passing game as I moved us down the field, but I didn't see OSU's D-end lurking and threw a goal line pick on our first drive. Luckily, our defense got a stop and we were continuing to move the ball, but with pressure in my face on third down, I missed an open receiver in the end zone and we had to settle for 3. Ohio State answered with a touchdown, and I knew this team was going to score with us better than any other team in the Big Ten. I juked down the sideline to get our offense moving and hit Luke Lachey on the seam route like I had been all year to get us into Ohio State territory. I was doing a good job of finding soft spots in the zones, but Ohio State was throwing confusing looks at me as they rolled their linebacker all the way over and I threw my second pick of the first half. This game was going to get out of hand if I kept making mistakes, and the shoe was going crazy. We started to get something going by throwing towards the sideline as I hit Lachey and Ostrander with perfect timing, and we finally punched it in before half with this touchdown pass to Arlen Bruce. Late in the fourth quarter, we were still down by 4 as I got loose for another big scramble. I was having another great day on the ground, but Ohio State's defense was tough and we had to settle for a long field goal that Drew Stevens thankfully drilled. With just over 2 minutes left, we were down 8 and things were looking tough. I did not want to end our undefeated run with a pick, so I was being careful with my reads and moving my team down the field slowly. On 3rd and 8 with pressure in my face, I lobbed a prayer to my tight end and he came down with a clutch catch, but I got hurt on the play and had to watch Carson May try to get us into the end zone from the sidelines. Thankfully, my backup clutched up by throwing a rope to Charles for the touchdown. We needed the 2-point conversion and Vanderbrush came up with another huge catch to tie it up. Unfortunately, CJ Stroud was somehow still on the Ohio State offense and he instantly got them into field goal range. With 30 seconds left, I watched as our defense broke down and Stroud waltzed into the end zone to give the Bucs the lead once again. 30 seconds was normally plenty of time for me, but unfortunately we called the worst play possible with 1 timeout left and I got stuffed. Now we couldn't get tackled short of the sticks, but I knew I was going to have to use my legs since everything was getting clamped downfield. But with time running down, the defensive end somehow caught me and now we were just going to have to chuck up a prayer. I heaved one to Ostrander, but it was picked out of the sky and we were handed a devastating first loss of the season. I'd put up a good fight, but my early turnovers had cost us big time. Our next game wasn't going to be any easier as we were taking on 99 overall Michigan and they scored right away, so we had to answer. We had to win out to make the Big Ten championship now, but we were feeling good in our nice blackout uniforms as I was marching us down the field with my arm. Whoever told me how to cancel the play action animation, you're the real MVP, because it was helping a lot and we tied the game up at 7. Michigan's offense was rolling, but I was really feeling sharp today. My receivers were doing a great job of creating separation as I hit Lachey to get us deep into the red zone, and after I rolled out, Arlen Bruce absolutely pimped this touchdown catch for no reason. Our defense finally got a stop and the coaches were giving me the green light to let it rip as I hit Craig Ostrander on the sideline. The seam routes had been my best friend all year and I was just able to fit it in for our 3rd touchdown of the half. But Michigan answered back with 2 of their own, so we really had to keep our foot on the gas. I trusted Keegan Johnson to run a great route and hit him for yet another touchdown pass, but our defense was just getting cut to ribbons by the Wolverines. We were going to have to keep piling on the completions and I was spreading it all over the field, but Ostrander couldn't quite hang on to this one and we had to convert on a 4th down. The coverage was tight as I rolled out and threw a strike to the sideline, but Ostrander couldn't get a foot down and it looked like we were screwed. But miraculously, Michigan fumbled the ball and our season was still alive. We had no timeouts, so I knew I had to be careful about the clock. Luke Lachey got wide open up the middle and I overthrew him just a bit, but he made a beautiful diving catch and we were in business. With time ticking down, I stayed in the pocket and hit Charles over the middle to send us into overtime. On 3rd and 5, JJ McCarthy made an awful throw and we came up with a huge pick. We just needed a Caleb Johnson touchdown to give us the win and our offense had clutched up as I threw for 4 touchdowns on the day. All we had to do in our last regular season game was survive against a struggling Nebraska team that was already thinking about firing Matt Rule in his 2nd year. Nebraska was giving us the underneath passes for easy gains all day. Going into the second half, we were tied at 14 and I did not want this to be another nail biter. It was slow going for our offense, but I got out of the pocket to find my guy Ostrander on 3rd down and we went up 3 with a field goal. This pass to Keegan Johnson could have been a pick, but the cornerback decided to run the shorter route for some reason, so we got a huge gain out of the play. Brian Ferentz called a nice little read option for me, and I put the Nebraska defense on skates with a spin move to pick up a 1st down. We went up 10 with a touchdown to my fullback Gorman, but Nebraska answered back and I didn't want to let their offense back on the field. We picked up a couple of 1st downs to escape with the win and cap off a great 11-1 regular season. I was playing in my 2nd Big Ten championship game after a heartbreaker to Ohio State last year. career. This was my biggest game ever because if we won this one, we would make the college football playoff. My offensive line was not giving me any time, but it didn't matter because I had the best tight end in the country as a big target that I could always count on. One thing I'd done great all year was spread the ball around as I hit Cole Charles on a beautiful touch pass over the top on this play. I was getting crushed by the Penn State defensive line, and I needed to convert on 3rd and 4 as I found my main man Craig Ostrander over the middle, and he broke a tackle to open us up with a touchdown. Our defense got a quick stop, and the City High connection was strong early in this game as Craig picked up another first down. I had no one open on 2nd down, and I got absolutely creamed by a D-end once again. Since my line was trash, I got out of the pocket and got loose for an easy first down. I barely got this ball out before getting my head taken off, and my CTE was growing worse with every snap, but I was still picking apart Penn State's coverages. I was in a rhythm and having one of my best performances as I continued to throw dimes, but my fullback couldn't hang on to this ball as we had to settle for a field goal and Penn State clapped back with a touchdown. Deep in my own territory, I had all day as I got out of the pocket and delivered an amazing dot over the top, but it got knocked away at the last second. It was okay though because I knew Luke Lachey was getting open against man coverage before I even snapped the ball. Penn State kept running man coverage, which was a bad idea because me and my receivers had perfect timing figured out. Down in the red zone, Penn State sent the house and we had pretty much everyone open as I got the ball to Arlen Bruce on the perimeter for an easy touchdown. Our defense got us the ball right back with a turnover and we were threatening to blow out the Nittany Lions as I found Ostrander again on the outside for a nice gain. I had Caleb Johnson wide open for a touchdown on the goal line to put us up by 17. We got the ball right back in the second half with a great chance to put the game away as I hit my other tight end Vanderbrush over the middle for a first down. Even when Penn State locked us up initially, I was able to extend plays to allow my receivers to get open. On this 3rd and long, I made one of the riskiest plays of my entire career as I tight-roped down the sideline and threw across the field to Lachey for a conversion. Unfortunately, Brian Ferentz was calling draw plays on 3rd down, so we gave the ball right back and the Nittany Lions went down to make it a 10-point game. It was starting to look like we might be in trouble, but on 3rd down, we came up with a huge completion to Luke Lachey, and on the next play, the coaches told me to let it rip as I hit a perfect seam pass to Vanderbrush, and he got some nice yards after the catch for the huge gain we needed. A touchdown would put this game away, and I guess Ostrander's man thought he was going to keep running out of bounds because he got completely lost as I threw a dagger. I'd finally won a Big Ten championship, and my celebration was a little overdramatic, but I was the hero as I played pretty much perfect with over 300 passing yards. After that performance, I won the Heisman Trophy in an absolute landslide. We made the college football playoff as a 4 seed, and we had Washington in the first round in the Rose Bowl. It was Iowa's first ever playoff appearance, and our top receiver Keegan Johnson was out with an injury, so this was going to be tough. I was feeling the nerves and missed an early deep shot on 3rd down, but coach got me settled in with a screen pass on the next drive, with Ostrander filling in as the number 1 receiver. I found him again on the curl route for an easy 3rd down conversion, and our offense was hitting its stride early as I converted another 3rd down to a wide open Luke Lachey over the middle. I didn't see anything open on the next play, so I did what I do best and got out of the pocket, but I got absolutely lit up short of the first. We got our first touchdown of the game with a Caleb Johnson run, but Washington made it 10-7, so me and Luke Lachey needed to keep moving our offense down the field. On the next play, I locked onto him too much and ended up getting hit hard for a fumble that my own lineman thankfully recovered. We had to pick up this 3rd down to keep the momentum, and Deontay Vines came up with an amazing diving catch. I tried to get out of the pocket here, but Washington was doing a good job of containing me, so I just had to get rid of it. It was looking like I'd have to stay in the pocket more today, but that was okay because I was making perfect reads on every throw. Unfortunately, Lachey couldn't hold on to this one after getting rocked, and we had to settle for 3 at the end of the half. We were clinging on to a 6-point lead midway through the 3rd quarter as I started to get the run game going on this speed option. I had to convert another 3rd down, and Craig Ostrander had a step, so I loaded up to make an amazing throw over the top that really showed off my arm strength. Down in the red zone, I finally got loose for a scramble as I hit a nasty spin move, but when I dived into the end zone, I lost the ball and it went out of the end zone for a touchback. My big mistake led to a 10-point swing, so we were clinging on to a 3-point lead as we came up with another big conversion to Deontay Vines. Coach called a read option, but I knew I was keeping the ball, and I made a nasty cut to break loose. I was the fastest guy on the field, and I made up for my fumble as I got into the end zone for a huge touchdown run. Washington answered with a touchdown of their own, but some of my new receivers were stepping up on the outside with Johnson out. On 3rd down, Brian Ferentz took the ball out of my hands, and we of course got stuffed. We made the infuriating decision to punt on the 40 on 4th and inches, and with a minute and a half left, it was do or die time. I'd been here before, and I was calm under pressure as I threw a strike to Luke Lachey on the sideline, and he continued his dominant performance. We got it inside the 5, and I was able to run it up the middle for the go-ahead touchdown. I was hyped up after the biggest score of my life, but our defense still had to hold up for 30 seconds. On 3rd down, they came up with a huge sack, but Washington was able to convert on 4th to stay alive. With time ticking under 20 seconds, I could only watch as Washington's QB chucked up a prayer that we thankfully picked out of the sky to seal the playoff win. I kneeled it out, and we'd won Kirk Ferentz his first Rose Bowl. Washington's quarterback was down bad, and I was the hero after running for over 100 yards and having a spotless day throwing the ball. It was on to the second round of the playoffs, and our game against Georgia was going to be the toughest we'd ever played. Their offense already had 7, so we were going to have to put up a lot of points in this one to hang around. I converted an early third down with a throw to my fullback, but on the next play, I tried to do too much with the scramble and ended up fumbling for the second game in a row. I was down horrendously after my mistake, but our defense held us down and I had to bounce back. We were deep in our depth chart with injuries to our receiving core, but we weren't missing a beat with our timing. Georgia was playing off coverage, so we were going to hit the curl routes all day, and me and Deontay Vines connected on a play action pass to get us inside the 5. I handed the ball to Caleb Johnson, who punched it in to tie up the game, but Georgia answered right back as I got absolutely swarmed, and this insanely fast defender tracked me down for a sack. Brian Ferentz called a stupid draw play on 3rd and long that went nowhere, and I don't know why he was taking the ball out of my hands on 3rd down when I could make big plays even when nobody was open. I was showing why I was the Heisman winner, but this 14-point deficit was going to be tough to overcome against such a good team. I got out of the pocket again, and I know I should have been sliding, but hitting these juke moves was just too satisfying. I threw a laser to Deontay Vines that he hung on to despite getting pounded, and we were starting to find our rhythm as I connected with Luke Lachey over the middle for a huge touchdown. Georgia answered with alarming speed, and I only had 20 seconds to make something happen. I was hoping to get us into field goal range as I thought Luke Lachey would be able to climb the ladder for this catch, but it got picked off. Thankfully, Georgia didn't get anything else before half, but we needed points on this drive bad. To come back from down 14 against Georgia, I was going to have to play pretty much perfect, and Craig Ostrander got just enough separation to catch this absolute dime on a deep play action pass. On 3rd and 4, I found Luke Lachey over the middle again for a touchdown. We missed the extra point, but our defense got a big stop, and after I broke away from a sack, I scampered for a solid first down again, aided by a generous spot. Georgia's guys up front were by far the most athletic I'd seen all year, but I was still too fast for them to stop me from getting loose on the scramble once again for a 20-yard gain. I was spreading the ball around to receivers I'd never even seen on the field before, and Caleb Johnson was once again able to finish what I started with a touchdown run. We needed this 2-point conversion bad, and Luke Lachey was the perfect target on the goal line as we tied up the game. Our defense came up with another stop, but I got swallowed up by the Georgia defensive line. On 3rd and 19, Brian Ferentz called the dumbest possible route tree, so I knew I was going to have to scramble, and Georgia could not stop me at all this half as I was able to come up with a massive conversion. I continued to find my guy Craig Ostrander all over the field, and for maybe the first time ever, our power run game was actually working great as Caleb Johnson picked up another first down. On 2nd and goal, I thought I had an easy scrambling touchdown, but I fumbled inches short of the goal line. After Georgia took the lead, I only had a minute to get us down the field for the game-tying touchdown. This was the biggest drive of my life, and I had to deliver some big plays to tie this game up, so I did just that as I threw a bomb to Craig Ostrander for the completion we needed. But on 2nd down, we were absolutely boxed, and I got hit hard. Now, I had to convert a 3rd and 20, so I found Luke Lachey up the seam to get it to 4th and manageable. On 4th down, there was nothing open, but I created just enough time to float a pass to Ostrander, and the high school duo clutched up to tie the game. Our defense just had to hold for 17 seconds to send us into overtime in this thriller, and I was nervous as they came up with a big completion on 1st down. With 11 seconds left, their quarterback had all day, but our coverage was solid as he had to check it down. We just had to fend off the dogs for one more play as Vandergriff rolled out and chucked a deep bomb that was caught by Ladd McConkey for a devastating touchdown. I couldn't believe our coverage busted that bad, and I didn't even get a chance to throw my own Hail Mary because Vines took it out of the end zone and got nowhere. Georgia sent us packing in the semifinal in absolutely brutal fashion, and for the first time all year, I had gotten outperformed by far by the opposing quarterback. I couldn't stop thinking about my fumble on the goal line, and our Cinderella season was over. I decided I had to finish what I started, so I was going to play one more year as the Iowa quarterback. This year, I needed to tighten up my accuracy and reduce turnovers to increase my draft stock. I got off to a good start with a completion to my new target, Jacob Bostic, and I was sad Luke Lachey was gone, but Cale Vanderbrush looked like a solid replacement. On 2nd down, I showed my pocket presence by stepping up and scrambling for a nice gain, and our first drive couldn't have gone better as I hit Ostrenga for an easy touchdown pass. I wanted to show NFL scouts that I could play in the pocket this year, but my offensive line had not gotten any better. Thankfully, I showed a crazy burst of acceleration, and I was looking like the fastest guy on the field as I avoided multiple defenders for a huge gain. Scrambling was a big part of my game, but I always kept my eyes downfield, which allowed me to hit Brody Brett for a beautiful touchdown pass and put us up by 2 scores. It looked like we were going to run away with this game already, and Jacob Bostic was looking like the fastest receiver on the field right now. Unfortunately, I threw an absolutely terrible goal line pick, and the NFL scouts were not going to like that decision. After my mistake, Iowa State had all the momentum, and just like that, they had the lead. Their pass rush was vicious, but I was able to get a quick one out to my guy Ostrander to get us moving downfield. With the way I was able to run the ball, I definitely could be a running back, especially when I was so used to taking hits. We were clamped up as my line collapsed again and I took a terrible sack. Going into the fourth quarter, we were down 3 and I had to clutch up to avoid the comeback loss. On third down, I scrambled yet again to pick up a huge conversion and juked my way down to the 30. Then, on second and long, I hit Brody Brett, who is becoming a solid option on the outside, for a first down. I thought I had an easy touchdown pass on third down, but unfortunately, it somehow got called back for a clipping, so we had to convert on third down. Brian Ferentz called one of my favorite plays, and I delivered a strike to Vanderbrush for the go-ahead touchdown. I had clutched up again, and after we got the ball back, all we had to do was run out the clock. We opted to pass on first down, which was just fine with me, and then on a huge third down, I had a wide open scramble lane up the middle once again to pick up the first down and get us the win. I was still upset about the interception I threw, but I'd had yet another Heisman performance. Our next game was a road matchup against K-State, and we got off to a nice start with a play-action pass to Brody Brett. I was getting almost no time in the pocket as usual, but I was making my reads with lightning speed as I found Brett again. On 3rd and 7, I had Bostic on the drag, and he did some extra work to get into the end zone for an opening drive touchdown. Our defense got a nice stop, and Brett was developing into one of my top targets on the outside as I continued to slice up the Wildcat defense. Kansas State forced a third down, but I had a wide open lane up the middle, and I did what I do best to get my first rushing touchdown of the day. The Wildcat offense answered with a field goal, but we were looking absolutely unstoppable on the road. K-State's defensive backs just couldn't cover the timing routes me and my receivers had been working on all offseason. I was trying to show the scouts that I could make smart reads and take what the defense gave me with easy dump-offs like this, but on 1st and goal, I got slung to the ground and coughed up the rock for a turnover. Thankfully, our defense was standing strong today, and 15 seconds felt like plenty of time for me to move us down the field. I continued to hit Brett for easy completions, but with time running down, he got popped short of the sticks, and we only had one play left to score. Luckily for us, the Kansas State free safety made a very stupid decision to try to jump the pass, which freed up Bostic for an easy touchdown to end the half. We continued to dominate on both sides of the ball as I showed off my scrambling ability for yet another big gain, and we ran out the clock to take care of the Wildcats with ease. Our next game was against lowly Kent State, and this game could not have possibly gotten off to a better start. I had a ton of open field on the read option, and all it took was one cut for me to take it all the way to the house. Surprisingly, Kent State was actually hanging with us, and their 10 fans in the stands were going crazy. I don't know why exactly we were playing this type of game on the road, but either way, I was dotting up the Golden Flash defense as Bostic was becoming a top receiver for me this year. On the next play, I showed how much my arm strength had improved over my career by making an impossible throw across my body to Brody Brett. Our verts weren't going to get open against man coverage, but luckily I was a whole lot faster than any of Kent State's players, so I got us down to the goal line and we punched it in for a touchdown. With 25 seconds left in the half, we needed some quick hitters to extend our lead. Vanderbrush got folded on this catch, but we were driving. Unfortunately, my perfect throw to Bostic went right through his hands, and midway through the third quarter, this was still very much a game. We had to wake up if we wanted to avoid an embarrassing loss, and I was doing my part as I continued to make quick reads to get my receivers the ball. On 3rd and 1, we needed another conversion, and Vanderbrush was able to get just enough separation for me to fit in a dot to finally give us a 2-score lead. All we had to do to close this one out was take care of the ball, but I wanted to continue racking up those Heisman stats as I got out of the pocket and into open space with ease. Unfortunately, I tried to do too much and fumbled, but the defense had my back as they got a big stop. We were still throwing the ball for some reason, but I wasn't complaining as my former high school teammate and I continued to connect and we capped things off with a touchdown pass. It was a closer game than I'd expected, and I needed to take better care of the ball going into Big Ten play. Our Big Ten opener was at home against Minnesota, and I was determined to keep the Floyd of Rosedale in Iowa City. After a completion to Ostrander on the sideline, I made a risky throw over the middle, but it worked out as I was growing to trust Vanderbrush more and more. Our other new tight end, Addison Ostrega, got involved as I hit him on a play-action pass, and he rumbled his way for an opening drive touchdown. Our defense got a stop, and I showed my ability to change directions on a dime as I almost got loose on the speed option. The receivers would be flocking to come to Iowa to play in this powerful Brian Ferentz offense. I decided to get loose for a scramble, and you'd think I would learn my lesson about trying to do too much, but it turns out that sometimes that works out. After the nastiest juke move of my life, I sped down the sidelines for a huge touchdown and a Heisman moment. We had jumped out to a big lead against this solid Minnesota team, and we looked to pile it on as I found my guy Jacob Bostic up the seam for a huge gain. Nothing Minnesota was calling on defense was working, because when they had everything clamped downfield, I was too fast to be contained from picking up huge gains. I was lucky not to fumble on that play, but my recklessness paid off again as I moseyed into the end zone for an easy scrambling touchdown. Up 35-0, our defense continued to shut down the Gophers, and even though Jacob Bostic's hands were questionable unpredictable at times, I was able to keep us moving downfield with big third down conversions. The Gophers were tired from running to catch me all day, and a speed option play gave me my third rushing touchdown of the game. To put the cherry on top, me and Vanderbrush showed our perfect chemistry as we connected on this corner route and nobody could stop him as he rumbled for a touchdown. We beat the Gophers into the ground, and I'd had another dominant performance as we held on to the Floyd of Rosedale. After starting off the season 4-0, we had a tough matchup at home against LSU, and they had a ridiculous offense, so we would have to put up some points. Our defense could not get a stop, but we were matching LSU blow for blow as Jacob Bostic was balling out. I was having one of my sharpest days throwing the ball as I continued to move us downfield, and my high school teammate Craig Ostrander got open deep for a huge touchdown at the end of half. Unfortunately, we sputtered in the second half as LSU kept scoring, and we were down 10 with just a few minutes left. Thankfully, we were able to get into the end zone after a huge gain by Vanderbrush, but LSU answered with a field goal, so we only had 40 seconds to score a touchdown. Luckily, that was plenty of time for me as I found Bostic once again deep downfield and threw open Craig Ostrander on the next play to get us to the goal line. With time ticking down under 20 seconds, I did what I had to do and scrambled into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. LSU had a chance at a last-second Hail Mary, but Xavier Nwankpa picked it out of the sky, and we escaped with a huge win behind my nearly perfect performance. Our next game in Big Ten play was at Michigan State, who is having a terrible season so far. I got off to a good start as we got the pass game going, and later in the drive, I rolled out and outsped everybody to put us up by 10 early. But Michigan State stormed back with 17 unanswered, and we were fighting for our lives midway through the third quarter. I found Bostic deep up the seam, and then on this play action, I rolled out and delivered a perfect ball on the run to tie up the game. The Spartans reclaimed the lead with a field goal, but I was fighting hard to keep our undefeated season alive as I drove us back into the red zone. I was going to win this game any way I could, so I was using my legs, and with time taking under 2 minutes, I escaped pressure once again to score another game-winning touchdown. I was the clutchest player in the country, and we needed it as our Big Ten schedule was proving to be tougher than it looked. We headed to Northwestern for a miserable rainy game, and things were going terribly as we were down 11 midway through the third. Our offense was struggling, and this Vanderbrush drop on a wide open pass turned into a killer interception. I was frustrated with my receivers, and the drops continued as Vanderbrush couldn't hold on to a third down pass, and my executive decision to go for it on fourth down backfired as Bostic let one go right through his hands. I was just trying to make something happen with time running down when this safety teleported to the ball for a pick, and we had taken a devastating first loss of the season against the Wildcats. After our terrible loss, we absolutely needed to win against Purdue at home, and things got off to a bad start as they jumped out to a lead, but I hit a big completion to Vanderbrush, who was trying to make up for his drops from last game. I hit Caleb Johnson on the goal line to cut down on the lead, and with time ticking down in the half, I needed to make another play. Purdue's coverage was terrible, and Vanderbrush got wide open as I hit him in stride, and we came up with a huge score before halftime. On second down, I saw that there was nobody on the right side of the field and took off. This Purdue team may have been scrappy, but they had nobody who could keep up with me in the open field as I jetted down the sidelines for a huge touchdown run. That would give us the push we needed to escape with a much needed win, and we were staying alive in the college football playoff race. We were back in the top 10, and we were on the road against an absolutely terrible 0-8 Indiana team. This was one of the easiest runs of my career as the Hoosiers had no one who could keep up with me, and I just needed to avoid one weak tackle attempt for the touchdown. Later on in the first quarter, we added to our lead as I delivered a touchdown pass to Jacob Bostic, and this one was looking like it was going to be a rout. The Hoosiers couldn't manage to get on the board, and I hit Bostic again for his second touchdown of the game. We played conservative and crushed down the clock for the rest of the day, and we beat down Indiana on the road behind my perfect performance. Our next game was the biggest of the season so far as we were taking on number 7 Ohio State at home. This was going to be a tough game as their offense was killing us early on, but I was able to tie it up as I got loose on a scramble, and great blocking downfield allowed me to walk in for an easy touchdown. The Buckeyes answered right back, and midway through the third, we were struggling to keep it within one score. Ohio State's offense was great, but their defense had plenty of holes in it, and the scramble had been open all day as I scored another rushing touchdown. Our defense finally came up with the stop we needed, and late in the third, we had the chance to go up by 2 scores. On third and goal, I trusted Caleb Johnson to get into the end zone on this dump off, and he made a man miss to put us up by 10. Of course, the Buckeyes got a quick touchdown, so we needed to run out the clock as I picked up a huge third down conversion, but after they burned their timeouts, we got stuffed on 3rd and 4. It only took the Bucs 1 minute to score a go-ahead touchdown, so once again, I had to lead a game-winning touchdown drive. I didn't have a lot of time to work with, but with less than 30 seconds left, I hit a huge completion to Bostic on the sideline. On 3rd and 10, we needed a big play, and this time, Ostrander was able to create some separation and muscled into the end zone for yet another game-winning touchdown. We had come up with a clutch win once again, and I'd had one of the best best games of my career against the Buckeyes. We were in for another big test on the road against Michigan in the snow, and we got things going with a completion to Vanderbrush, who is emerging as one of the best tight ends in the country. On 1st and goal, Caleb Johnson punched it in, and it looked like we were going to cruise to victory as we followed it up with another touchdown to Addison Ostrega on the next drive. But Michigan clawed their way back into the game as I threw a very bad pick, and the Wolverines cashed it in to take the lead. It seemed like I was in this position every game, so I was unfazed as I began to march us down the field. With time running down under 2 minutes, I got out of the pocket to escape the pressure and ran for a big 3rd down conversion, hitting a nasty juke to get some extra yards at the end. On 2nd and goal, my 3rd string tight end brick-handed a touchdown, and I was running for my life on 3rd down. I got a throw off for a completion, but Ostrega got obliterated to make it 4th and goal. I had no intentions of throwing the ball whatsoever, and I did what I had to do to get into the end zone for another go-ahead touchdown. Michigan had one last chance to tie it up, but thankfully we were able to pick their deep pass out of the sky, and we got out of the big house with a huge win. There were snowstorms all over the Midwest as we took on a putrid Nebraska team back in Kinnick Stadium. All that stood between us and the Big Ten championship game were the Huskers, and I was not going down easy as I broke out of a sack and ran for my life to pick up a 1st down. I punched it in with a quick pass to my main man Ostrander, and he was feeling it today as he got off the press and made an absolutely insane one-handed catch. We turned his big play into 3 points, but couldn't quite pull away from Nebraska, and we were protecting a 4-point lead late in the game. Thankfully, I was able to find Ostrander again for another big gain as we got a touchdown with the fullback dive to punch our ticket to the Big Ten championship game. I was hanging around on the Heisman watch after a string of great performances, and I had the chance to show that I deserved it in this game. The Big Ten championship game was off to an interesting start as number 1 Penn State was somehow up by 2 before I even touched the ball. After Brody Brett made an amazing catch, we finished off the drive with an Ostrander touchdown as he continued to make big plays for us. Our defense was shutting down the Nittany Lions so far, and Ostrander was the man of the hour as he torched the secondary, and I hit him in stride for a huge touchdown pass. We had a chance to jump out to a big lead before halftime, but then everything went downhill. Penn State's cornerback played me, and after I got blocked in the back, I could only watch as he was able to take it all the way to the house for a pick 6. We were in another dogfight late in the 3rd quarter, but I delivered the huge play that we needed as I rolled out and threw a rope to Vanderbrush for a massive gain. On 3rd and goal, I showed ridiculous acceleration to avoid the pressure and throw on the run for a big Brody Brett touchdown. Up 8 with time running down, we just had to crush the clock, but I couldn't convert on 3rd down, and Penn State of course tied it up at the last second to take us to overtime. We had to score a touchdown to stay alive, and a playoff spot was on the line. On 1st and goal, I found my number 1 target Vanderbrush over the middle to tie things up, and we had the ball to start the 2nd overtime. I refused to come up with anything short of a touchdown as Bostic got us inside the 10, and I did what I do best to put us up by 7 and put the pressure on Penn State. Drew Aller was able to respond to tie up the game, but the Nittany Lions got nothing in the 3rd overtime, so all we needed was points to send us to the playoffs. I was not going to risk throwing a pick, so I just scrambled down the sideline to get us into position for the game-winning field goal. I'd won my 2nd Big Ten championship, and my heroic performance allowed me to steal my 2nd Heisman Trophy. Our win also earned us the top spot in the college football playoff. Our playoff semifinal game against North Carolina got off to a bad start as I fumbled on the 1st drive. The Tar Heels had a 99 overall offense, and we were going to have to score points to match them as we got going with a big completion to Vanderbrush, who had filled Luke Lachey's shoes admirably this season. I punched it in with a quick throw to Craig Ostrander, but the Tar Heels answered right back, so we were going to have to keep our foot on the gas to stay in this game. Vanderbrush was having a monster game already as he got loose again for a big gain, and inside the red zone, I had nobody open, so I got out of the pocket as usual and cruised my way into the end zone to knot it up at 14. Our defense was not doing anything to stop North Carolina, so it was crucial that we score before halftime. I got loose and juked my way down for a big gain on the scramble, and I was playing spotless football in the biggest game of my life as I hit Bostic up the seam to keep us moving. Brody Brett was able to create just enough separation to catch the go-ahead touchdown before halftime, and this game was an absolute barn burner. Neither one of these defenses could get a stop as I continued to dice up the Tar Heels for big gains on the ground and through the air. I was a perfect 11 for 11 throwing the ball on the day as we worked our way down to the goal line and Caleb Johnson punched it in to tie it back up. Our defense finally was able to come up with a stop. Time was running low as I hit Ostrander on the play action pass, and with under 2 minutes left, we punched it in to take the lead. Carolina drove down the field for one last chance to tie it up, but on 4th down, they fell short, and I showed that I absolutely deserved the Heisman as I only had one incompletion in a dominant playoff performance. We were moving on to the first national championship game in school history. Our national championship foe was Syracuse, and they sported another high-powered offense that jumped out to a lead immediately. immediately. I would have to have another great game to hang with the firepower of the Orange, and Vanderbrush had been there for me all season as we drove right down the field. Caleb Johnson finished off the drive right with a touchdown, but it looked like this was going to be another shootout. I was just fine with that, and even in the heavy rain, I was able to throw an absolute dot across my body and hit Vanderbrush for a deep gain. It didn't look like anything was open on 1st and goal, so I dumped it off to Johnson, and he was able to work some magic to get into the end zone. We finally got a stop and continued to prove that Iowa is tight end university as Vanderbrush was racking up yards once again. We capped off the drive with an easy touchdown pass to Jacob Bostic, and after our defense forced a turnover, we were in a great position. I got out of the pocket and put us inside the 5 with a quick scramble down the sideline, and on 2nd and goal, Syracuse could not contain me as I escaped again and taunted the defense before scoring yet another touchdown. Syracuse couldn't keep up their offensive pace from the first half, and all we had to do was run some clock, but I wanted to let it rip in the last game of my college career. Craig Ostrander wasn't able to hold on to this absolute dot of a deep ball, but after another defensive stop, we iced the game with a Caleb Johnson run, and I had finally won a national championship for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I had accomplished everything I could in the hardest quarterback road to glory ever attempted on YouTube, winning 2 Heismans and a national championship with a 5'5" quarterback and 0 to 100 sliders. Thanks for watching Patrick Fitzpatrick's journey, and be sure to subscribe before you go. Have a good one. Peace.